Hello, everyone. Tonight we are stepping into a story that only appears when the clock ticks past 12 and the streets start to forget your name. Imagine this: a narrow alleyway between a bookstore that never closes and a tailor shop that never opens. The street lamp above you flickers like it's trying to warn you, or maybe just cheer you on. At the end of that alley, there's a soft golden light and a sign that reads, "Her cafe only opens at midnight." You won't find coffee here. Not even a whiff. But you will find something else. Something your dreams misplaced a long time ago. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing how far this sleepy caravan travels. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's embark on tonight's journey together. The street outside is nearly silent except for your shoes on the cobblestone and the occasional snore from a city that's finally gone to bed. You didn't plan to be out this late. You were supposed to head home after that second drink, or maybe the fourth. But your feet have a different idea tonight. You pass the bookstore, still lit. A cat in the window gives you a disapproving look. You shrug. You're not in the mood to explain yourself to a feline critic. That's when you notice it. A smell. Warm, spicy, like cardamom and orange peels roasted in a dream. You turn toward the alley. It's not a welcoming alley. It looks like a bad decision wrapped in fog. But the smell, it's like nostalgia's little brother tugging your sleeve. You follow it. At the end of the alley, there it is. The door. The cafe. It's tucked between two buildings, like someone forgot to finish drawing the street and just scribbled in magic instead. The sign above the door glows softly, pulsing like a slow heartbeat. Her cafe only opens at midnight. You check your phone. 12:04 a.m. Right on time. The door creaks open before you touch it, like it's been expecting you. A little dramatic, but okay. Inside, it's warm. Not stuffy warm, but wrapped in a quilt warm. The walls are mismatched wood and floral wallpaper, the kind your grandmother might have hated but tolerated. Edison bulbs hang from long cords, humming faintly, and the air smells like cinnamon, burnt sugar, and faintly, oddly chalk. The only sound is the soft tap of a spoon stirring something behind the counter. You don't see a barista. You don't see anyone at all. But there are tables. A few are set. One has a small, steaming cup on it, unattended. You walk closer. It smells like cloves. And nostalgia. Not your nostalgia, though. Someone else's. The cup is half full. You look around. "Hello!" You call out. A voice replies from the back. "Be with you in just a moment. The toast won't let go of the marmalade." You blink. Okay, so maybe you've fallen into a Wes Anderson film and forgot your costume. Happens to the best of us. The person who emerges is peculiar. She wears a faded dress with cloud patterns and an apron embroidered with moths. Her eyes are tired in a dreamy way, like she hasn't fully returned from wherever she just was. One wrist has a watch dangling from it. Broken, the glass cracked, the hands stuck at midnight. "Welcome," she says. "First time?" You nod. "What is this place?" She smiles, but doesn't answer directly. "Table or counter?" You glance at the counter. It's got an old cash register, a glass dome covering 3 scones, and a bowl of what looks like marbles floating in tea. "Counter," you say, because somehow that feels like a decision your dream self already made. She hands you a menu. The cover is velvet. No name, no branding, just the faint smell of lavender and pencil shavings. Inside, it's handwritten. Cursive, lovely. But there are no prices. Just names of drinks like Yesterday's Craving, Childhood Picnic, First Kiss in a Thunderstorm, the joke you forgot but still laugh at. "Where's the coffee?" you ask, flipping pages. She tilts her head. "Oh, honey, we don't serve coffee. Never have." You frown. But it's a cafe. "It's her cafe," she says with a nod toward the ceiling, or maybe the moon. You glance around again. The place is cozy, lived in. A record player spins a soft jazz loop in the corner. There's a single pink umbrella hanging from the ceiling for no clear reason. "Okay," you say slowly. "So what do you serve?" "Memories," she replies. "Yours, others, shared or stolen. Sometimes daydreams, sometimes regrets. We have a lovely seasonal selection of what might have been. Fresh tonight." You laugh, despite yourself. "Is this like a theme place?" She shrugs. "Only if you need it to be." You open your mouth to ask another question, but stop. Because somehow, impossibly, starting to remember something. The smell in the air, it's the same as the kitchen in your childhood apartment when your mom used to bake cardamom cookies before the power went out. You haven't thought about that in years. You okay? The waitress asks, watching you carefully. You nod, but your throat is tight. Yeah, just familiar. She smiles again, softer this time. The place finds you when you're ready. A bell tinkles at the door. You turn to look. No one comes in. But the door swings open and shut on its own, letting in a brief gust of air that smells like cold swimming pools and fireflies. Looks like we're starting early tonight, the waitress murmurs. She pulls a notepad from her apron. So what'll it be? You look down at the menu again, and for the first time in a long while, you don't know what to order, but it feels like the menu already knows what you need. Waiting for continue. You choose something that sounds safe. Comfort, room temperature, with a hint of fog. Not that you know what that means, but it feels non-committal, like ordering toast at a new restaurant. The waitress scribbles it down on a pad that looks more like a diary than an order slip. Her pen doesn't click or scratch, it hums. You think the sound is in your ears, but maybe it's in your teeth. She turns to the espresso machine, which isn't plugged in, and instead of buttons, it has dials marked with moods. Melancholy, wistful, electric blue. She sets it to soft ache and hums to herself while steaming something that smells like library books and dryer sheets. You glance up again. You're the waitress? Only when the cafe lets me be, she says without turning around. She pours the drink into a porcelain cup that has tiny stars painted inside. There, she says, placing it gently in front of you. Sip slow. Let it find the corners. You take the cup, feeling its warmth settle into your palms like a sleepy kitten. It tastes exactly like a night spent under too many blankets, waiting for a thunderstorm that never came. Vague comfort. Quiet hope. A little too much nutmeg. You're not from around here, she says, sitting across from you like this is just a Tuesday night book club. You shake your head. I got lost, I think. She nods. Most people who find us do. It's not a mistake, though. I guess the alley knows who needs directions. You study her face. She can't be more than 30, but her eyes have the same look as ancient trees or librarians who have outlived their collections. What's your name? You ask. She smiles faintly. The last time I checked, it was Zoe, but that could have changed. It's hard to tell when your watch never moves. You glance at her wrist again. The cracked glass. The frozen hands. Why don't you fix it? You ask. I tried, she replies. But the time it broke? It matters. If I fix it, I might forget something I need to remember. She sips from her own mug, which is shaped like a broken teacup that's been glued back together with gold. You don't remember seeing her make it. Maybe she didn't have to. Is the cafe always open at midnight? You ask. She laughs softly. Only when the moon's curious, or when someone like you needs something warm that isn't caffeine. You pause. What is this place really? Zoe twirls her spoon. Imagine all the feelings you've never named, all the thoughts you've misplaced, the stories you were too tired to finish. This cafe, it's where they go to wait for you. You lean back on the stool. The cushion sighs beneath you. Okay, you say. That sounds like a dream. She winks. Dreams don't serve pastries this good. She gestures to the dome with the scones, which now look slightly more golden and slightly less innocent. A small bell chimes again. This time, someone walks in. A woman with a coat too big and a cat on her shoulder. The cat nods at Zoe like it's a regular. The woman sits at a table near the window. She doesn't even look at the menu. I'll have Wednesday mornings when he still smiled, please. Zoe stands and gives you a pat on the shoulder. Be right back. You watch her move through the cafe with a kind of ballet smoothness. Everything about her seems just a second out of sync with reality, like she's still sinking to the rhythm of a different world. You sip your drink again. The fog part is starting to come through now. It tastes like streetlights seen through tears you don't admit are yours. Zoe returns a few minutes later and sets a drink before the woman. The cat sniffs it, then curls up in the woman's lap. You say, "Do people always order like that? Just feelings?" She shrugs. Some people come knowing what they need. Some think they want one thing and end up getting another. The cafe listens. It brews accordingly. How does it know? The same way music knows when to swell, she says. You nod slowly. You don't get it, but you feel it. The door opens again. Another guest enters. This time, it's a man in a neon windbreaker and socks with flamingos on them. He holds a single red balloon. "Zoe!" he shouts. "Make it like the night before prom, please. Extra cinnamon this time." Zoe nods without surprise, already reaching for the lavender tin. You lean in. "He's a regular?" "Third time this week," she replies. "Doesn't that get expensive?" Zoe looks genuinely confused. "Expensive how?" "Money?" She laughs, an actual laugh this time. "Oh, sweetheart, the cafe doesn't do currency. We do exchange." You blink. "Exchange?" "Memories, stories, found objects, tears saved in jars, unfinished poems, footprints left in snow. That kind of thing." You glance at your wallet, suddenly feeling like the Monopoly man at a meditation retreat. "So if I wanted another drink?" You could offer something. A feeling you don't need anymore. An old question. A name you forgot to forget. You sit back. "I have a subway ticket from 2011? Zoe considers. "Was that the night you missed your stop and ended up on the wrong side of town, where you met that guy with the harmonica and the blue shoelaces?" Your jaw drops. "How?" Zoe just smiles. "That's worth a whole pot of lost but kind of grateful, if you ever want it." The cat at the other table lets out a tiny sneeze, like punctuation. You sip your drink again and find it's changed flavor. Now it tastes like a snow day that was canceled just when you needed it. Zoe stands. "I should check on the scones." You look down at your cup. There's a message now, spelled out in the remaining foam. "You'll need to come back." Your fingers twitch. "Hey, Zoe?" You call. She pauses. "Yeah?" You say nothing for a moment, then finally ask, "What happens if I do come back?" She smiles, setting the last scone under glass like a precious fossil. "Then the cafe will show you what it's been saving." Waiting for continue. You don't mean to return. It just happens. Maybe it's because the days have felt a little too sharp lately, like every sound is dialed up and everyone you pass by is carrying some secret you're not supposed to hear. You start looking for the cafe around midnight without even thinking, walking past dumpsters and backdoor staircases, your eyes scanning brick walls for impossible doors. And then one night, it's just there again. The soft gold light spills out like warm honey. The door is slightly ajar, humming the same low tune as last time. The wind behind you pushes gently, like even it agrees. "Go on, then." You step inside. Zoe looks up and smiles before you can say anything. "Took you long enough," she says. You don't ask how she remembers you. This place doesn't do forgetting. The same stool is empty, as if it knew you were coming. "I brought something this time," you say, pulling out a tiny, laminated library card. The edges are curled, and the name has faded into soft ghost letters. Zoe takes it with reverence and slips it into the wooden drawer of pressed tokens. "A memory of permission," she says. "Powerful stuff." You sit. "Can I get something new?" Zoe nods. "Do you want to feel something you've never felt, or remember something you always knew but buried?" You blink. "There's a menu for that. There's a mood for that," she says, and begins preparing something slow, deliberate. Tonight, the cafe smells like orange peels and pencil shavings. The record player is spinning something jazzy, with occasional static, like it's remembering the first time it played that tune. You notice the chalkboard again. It reads, "Tonight's feature, a conversation you should have had sooner." And underneath that, "Served warm, but it'll cool off fast." You swallow hard. "Can I try that?" Zoe pauses. "It might come with someone else's voice. That okay?" You nod. She pours a drink into a mug shaped like a curled hand. You're not sure if it's holding the cup or offering it to you. You take a sip. It's bitter at first. Tastes like apologies that were almost said. Phone calls you drafted and deleted. But then it warms. Honey thick and velvety, like words finally said aloud. You hear her voice. The person you didn't call. The one who said, "Take care," and meant, "Please don't disappear." She says, "I knew you weren't ready, but I wanted you to try anyway." Your chest tightens, and you set the mug down gently. The echoes fade, but the feeling stays. Like a sweater you didn't know you'd been wearing all winter. You wipe your eyes. That was intense. Zoe passes you a napkin with something embroidered on the edge. "We only say forever when we mean maybe." You smile. "You write these?" She shakes her head. "They show up on their own. Cafe has its ways." The door swings open behind you. A woman in a business suit enters, her heels clicking like metronomes. She's carrying a box full of torn-up greeting cards and a single daisy in a vase. She walks to the counter and says clearly, "I want 1 year of patience in 10 minutes." Zoe whistles low. "That's a fast infusion." "You sure?" The woman nods. "I don't have more time." Zoe gets to work. You glance at her box. The cards have phrases like, "You tried," "Tanar," and "Better luck next time," scribbled out. On one, someone had drawn a smiley face, then scratched it out so violently it tore through the paper. The woman catches you looking. "Breakup," she says simply. You nod. "Rough?" She shrugs. 5 years, 1 dog, and a lease with my name still on it, so, yeah. Zoe returns with a clear bottle of something amber and bright. She places a spoon next to it. "Stir clockwise," she says, "until you stop blaming yourself." The woman does, slowly. The liquid glows with each turn. "I thought this place didn't serve alcohol," you whisper. "It doesn't," Zoe replies, "but sometimes it gives you something that hits just as hard." The woman finishes her drink, stands tall. "I think I'm going to go finally buy that blender." Zoe nods. "And maybe make smoothies for yourself?" She laughs. "Maybe just throw it at a wall first." She leaves the box behind, daisy and all. As the door swings shut, the vase shatters on its own, but only you seem to hear it. Zoe sweeps up the petals with a broom made of crow feathers. She'll be back. Most people come twice. You sip more of your drink. It's cold now, but no less powerful. So this place? Does it change? All the time, Zoe says, but only to match you. You lean in. "What if I want to forget something?" She stiffens just slightly. "We don't usually do forgetting." "Why not?" "Because forgetting is too close to pretending it never mattered. And here," she taps the counter, "everything matters." You nod slowly. "That's fair?" Zoe walks to the back briefly and returns with a small box. She places it in front of you. "What's this?" "Optional," she says. "Inside is something you buried. Not traumatic, just unfinished." You open it. Inside is a red shoelace, frayed at both ends, tied in a sloppy knot. You blink. "This was from 3rd grade." Zoe smiles. "You were trying to tie your shoes without help. You failed. Then you lied about it and said you didn't want to go to recess anyway." You laugh softly. "I hated lying. But you kept doing it," she says kindly, "until you didn't." You hold the lace gently. It still smells like playground mulch and hope. You tuck it into your pocket. "Thanks," Zoe nods. "It's yours again. You're allowed to keep the things you forgot on purpose." You sip again. The cup is nearly empty, but your chest feels full. The cafe lights dim briefly. The record skips, then settles into a slow, familiar loop. You glance around. There's a teenager writing a letter to herself at age 10. A man tracing a photo with his thumb, murmuring something like an apology. A young woman talking to her reflection in the window, nodding like she finally understands what she meant 5 years ago. And Zoe, polishing a spoon with so much care, it's like she's coaxing truth from the silver. You lean back. The cafe sighs with you. "Waiting for continue?" The man in the green suit sits with his back too straight and his shoulders too high, like he's permanently bracing for an emotional sucker punch. His hands stay on the counter, fingers tapping out a Morse code of anxiety. Zoe pours him a drink that looks like black tea, but moves like oil. It doesn't steam. Instead, it shimmers. When the cup lands in front of him, he exhales sharply, as if the aroma alone pulled a memory out of his lungs. He doesn't speak, just sips, and stares at nothing in particular. You glance at Zoe. She nods slightly as if to say, "Let him have his moment." Instead, you lean back and take in more of the cafe. There's a shadow in the corner, shaped like a coat rack but breathing a little. A record player spins a track you can't quite hear, but every now and then, you catch a lyric that sounds suspiciously like your own thoughts. The chalkboard by the window now reads, "Tonight's special, love letters you never sent." Underneath that, add a dash of rain and serve lukewarm. You chuckle. Is that real? Zoe follows your gaze and grins. As real as your imaginary friends. The older woman beside you slaps her knee and says, "I did once get served a martini that tasted like my diary. Very salty." You look down at your own empty cup. There's a thin film across the bottom now, like pond water after a wish. Zoe catches your gaze. "Another round?" You hesitate. "What else is there?" She squints at you, not critically, but curiously. "What's the last thing you regret not saying?" You blink. "That's specific." "This place is specific," she replies. You consider it. Turn the question over like a stone in your pocket. The answer is warm and cold all at once. I never told her I liked the way she hummed when she cooked. Zoe's face softens. That's a perfect ingredient. She doesn't write it down, doesn't need to. Instead, she walks to the espresso machine and hums a tune of her own. Low, rich, somewhere between lullaby and hymn. The drink she brings back is in a mug shaped like a seashell. Steam curls upward, smelling faintly of garlic bread and anxiety. You take a sip. It tastes like a kitchen you once tiptoed through, barefoot and hopeful. The light flickers not from electricity but from memory. Candlelit dinners you never had, phone calls you never made. You feel the tightness in your chest that only comes when you remember how easy it would have been to be brave, how close you were. You set the cup down gently. Wow. Zoe leans on the counter. Memory is funny. It's never accurate, but it's always true. Across the bar, the man in the green suit clears his throat. Sometimes I ask for the same regret twice, he says without looking up, just to see if it's changed. Has it? You ask. He nods very slowly. Not the regret, but the flavor. It's lighter now, less sharp. Zoe adds, that's the thing about emotions. They ferment. The door opens again. A kid walks in, maybe 20. Backpack slung low, earphones still in, nodding along to a beat only he can hear. He walks straight to the counter and mumbles, I'll have the last day before I got sad. Zoe raises an eyebrow. That's a big one, he shrugs. I got a coupon. You and the man in the green suit exchange a glance as Zoe vanishes into the back. I didn't know there were coupons, you say. The man chuckles. You can earn them or lose them. Depends on the night. Zoe returns with a tall glass, misty and glowing from within. The kid sips and instantly slouches in the stool like a balloon just got untied from inside him. Whoa, he says. That's exactly it. Zoe high-fives him with a knowing wink. Your stamp card's almost full. You stare at her. There are stamp cards? She shrugs. Sort of. You earn a return visit every time you tell the truth. You turn to the man in green. What truth did you tell? He smiles, bitter but clean. I admitted it was my fault, and I stopped saying maybe when I meant no. Zoe claps softly. 2 of our most popular truths. You look at the door. Still cracked open. The world outside is a bit hazy, like it's afraid to fully interrupt the cafe's mood. The older woman finishes her drink and stands up. Well, time to go pretend I'm normal again. Zoe waves. Your jar of whispers is still behind the ficus, in case you need it. I always do, she mutters as she heads out. You call after her. Wait, what did you order the first time? She stops at the door. The way my dad said my name when he meant it. She walks out before you can process that. The wind that follows her smells like campfires and unfinished lullabies. You turn to Zoe again. Do people ever come here twice in the same night? Only if they change, she replies. You laugh. Isn't that kind of fast? Not here, she says. The cafe isn't on your kind of time. You nod. That explains the clock running backwards and the taste of nostalgia in your teeth. I think I want to come back, you say. Zoe leans closer. Then leave something behind. You reach into your jacket pocket, pull out a guitar pick. Cheap plastic, scuffed at the edges. She takes it gently. Who was it from? She asks. You pause. Me, from when I thought I'd be someone else by now. Zoe presses the pick into a velvet box on the shelf. That's a good one. Might brew something strong later. You stand to go. The cafe shifts slightly beneath your feet, like a boat not quite docked. You say, Zoe, do you sleep? She shakes her head. I rest. But I don't sleep. Sleep is for those who still get dreams from the outside. What do you dream of, you ask? She smiles. Mostly open tabs, lost pens, and people who remember how they used to dance when no one was watching. The man in the green suit stands up too, slaps a receipt onto the counter. See you next mistake. He mutters to no one in particular, then vanishes into the night. The kid still sips his drink, earbuds back in, humming along to a song that sounds like forgiveness. Zoe waves you toward the door. Come back when you've remembered something you didn't mean to forget. You nod and step outside. The night is thicker now, the alley shorter or longer. You're not sure. But your chest feels lighter, like something opened inside and left the door unlocked. Waiting for continue. You stay at the counter longer than you meant to. The kind of longer where the world outside might have changed seasons. The cafe doesn't have clocks, not really. Just that frozen one on Zoe's wrist and a grandfather in the corner that ticks backward. You glance at the menu again. The items shift when you're not looking. Where it once said quiet joy left on a windowsill, it now reads his laugh when he didn't know you were watching. You clear your throat. Do people ever order coffee anyway? Zoe chuckles as she refolds a linen napkin in perfect thirds. They try, and every time, the cafe offers them something they didn't know they needed instead. So if I asked for a latte? She gives you a playful look. You'd probably get second chances with too much foam. That doesn't sound terrible, you say. No, she agrees, but also not what you think you want. You're about to protest when another customer walks in. She's older, dressed like someone who owns 5 types of scissors and has names for all of them. Her shoes don't match, and her lipstick is the color of a ripe tomato. She takes the stool beside you like she's done it 100 times. Zoe greets her warmly. Back again so soon? The woman nods. I've been chasing a dream that smells like turmeric and heartbreak. I think you're the only place that serves it. Zoe pours her something dark and thick, steam curling into spirals that don't break. The woman raises her cup. Cheers, kid, she says to you. Cheers, you reply, clinking your now cold drink like it's a toast to some shared nonsense. She sips. Her eyes well up immediately. Not sad tears, not quite. Just remembering tears. I ordered the moment before he left, she says softly. I always say I won't, and then I do. Can't help myself. Does it hurt? You ask. Only the good parts, she replies, dabbing her eyes with a napkin that somehow smells like springtime laundry. You turn back to Zoe. What's the weirdest thing anyone's ever ordered? She thinks for a moment. Someone once asked for my sister's laugh from that one Christmas. Said she didn't remember which year, just that they had matching pajamas and burned the cookies. Did you serve it? Sort of, Zoe says. It came out as a cup of cocoa with too many marshmallows and the sound of someone humming Silver Bells faintly in the steam. You grin. That's kind of beautiful. Zoe shrugs, modest. The cafe does all the hard work. I just pour. Another order rings up. The receipt printer spits out something on parchment. It smells like ink and thunder. Zoe tears it off. Excuse me, she says, disappearing into the back. The older woman beside you sighs. You know, when I first came here, I thought it was a gimmick. A hipster-themed joint. And now, I've cried over a teacup and left a memory of my dog in exchange for a slice of wool. If I'd said yes. Trust me, gimmicks don't smell like wet pine and middle school science fairs. You smirk. You gave up a memory? She nods. It's still in the wallpaper. That corner over there hums like his collar used to. Listen close, you'll hear it. You look where she points, and for a split second, you do hear something. A faint jingle. Maybe a bark. Maybe your mind is playing along. You finish your drink. It leaves a warm trail down your throat that stays longer than it should. Like it's waiting. You say, Zoe said I could trade a feeling. Is that true? The woman beside you lifts an eyebrow. Thinking of ordering something heavier? You nod slowly. I think I want to remember something. Something I don't even know I've forgotten. She leans in. Be careful. Sometimes those memories come back with teeth. Zoe returns, wiping her hands on a towel that smells faintly of basil. Thinking of trying something else? She asks you. You hesitate. Maybe. Can I try something deeper? She considers. You sure? You glance back at the door. Still open, slightly ajar, like the night hasn't decided to close in fully. I'm sure, you say. Zoe nods. Okay, you'll need to trade something personal. Not big, just honest. You think. Then reach into your pocket, sit a small folded note, water-stained, the ink barely legible now. It says, call me sometime. Maybe the beach again? You never did. Zoe takes it gently, doesn't read it, just places it into a drawer lined with pressed flowers. Thank you, she says. This will make something special. She gets to work. This time, the machine hisses. The dials spin. The cafe lights flicker, not violently, just like they're breathing deeper. She sets the cup before you. The mug is clear glass, filled with something that looks like starlight and melted snow. A faint glow comes off the surface, like it might whisper if you lean in close. What is it, you ask? She answers softly, someone else's memory that belonged to you first. You sip, and you fall into it. You're 7. You're standing in a kitchen that no longer exists. Your father is laughing, a sound you forgot he used to make. You're stirring something too big for your hands, and he's steadying the bowl. You spill the batter. He doesn't scold you. He makes a joke. Now it's a kitchen painting. You remember that exact phrase, and then it's gone. You blink. You're back in the cafe. The cup is empty. The woman beside you nods. Yeah, she says. Like that. You sit in silence, stunned. Zoe pats your shoulder gently. You okay? You nod. I didn't even know I needed that. No one does, she says. That's why they come here instead of Starbucks. You laugh, and it sticks in your throat a little. This place is impossible. Zoe smiles. No, just unrepeatable. You sit back, still holding the warm cup. It doesn't glow anymore, but your hands do. Another customer enters, the man with the green suit. He looks like someone who would never admit to crying, but probably cries during movie trailers. He walks straight to the counter. I'll have regret steeped for 3 years, please. Zoe doesn't blink. Of course. You watch as the man sits 3 stools down. He notices you and says, First time? You nod. Brace yourself, he says. It's about to get personal. Waiting for continue. You think maybe this time you'll ask more questions. Zoe greets you with that same effortless smile, but there's a flicker of tiredness behind it tonight. Like even a place outside of time still has its gravity. Back again? She says, wiping a glass that doesn't look dirty. Yeah, you reply. I think I want to understand what this place really is. Zoe sets down the glass and looks you over with amusement. That's a big ask for a midnight cafe that doesn't serve coffee. You gesture around. Is it a dream? Nope. A metaphor? Closer. A purgatory? Too Catholic. You raise an eyebrow. So it's real? She shrugs. As real as anything you carry with you after you leave. A slow jazz version of Nothing Compares to You starts playing from the record player. Zoe grins. This one always makes people confess things. You slide onto your usual stool. Fine. I'll bite. Tell me a story. Zoe leans forward, both elbows on the counter. All right, but only if you promise to stay till the end. I promise. She nods toward the chalkboard. Tonight it reads, Tonight's brew, the time she waited anyway. Served slow, no garnish, no excuses. Zoe begins, voice low and rhythmic, like bedtime fog. There was once a man who only ever spoke in questions. Not because he was curious, but because he was afraid of making statements. You smirk. Sounds like every guy I dated in college. She winks. Let me finish. You hush. This man wandered in one night, rain on his shoes, a letter in his coat pocket that he never mailed. It was addressed to someone named Cam. No last name, just Cam. What was in the letter? Zoe tilts her head. He didn't open it. Not even here. Said if he read it, it would be real. And if he didn't, then he could keep pretending Cam was still waiting. You sigh. Oof. She continues. He asked for a drink that would tell him what would have happened if he had stayed. I told him, that's not what we do here. But the cafe disagreed. You glance around. It can disagree? It has moods, she says. And sometimes it grants requests that are more dangerous than comforting. You whisper, so what happened? Zoe smiles sadly. He drank it, and the next morning, Cam showed up. Said they'd been coming every night too. Different entrances. Different regrets. Your eyes widen. They found each other here? For a moment, Zoe nods, long enough to say what they never did. You let that sit. It feels heavier than your coat. I didn't know this place could reunite people. It doesn't, Zoe says. But sometimes, if 2 people regret the same moment at the same time, the cafe lets them meet. You sit back, silent. The door opens. This time, a man in his 70s walks in. He has a box under one arm and a pair of reading glasses hanging from his collar. His eyes scan the room like he's remembering something instead of searching for it. Zoe greets him. Back for the same? He nods. And I brought the photo this time. He sits a few stools down and opens the box. Inside, there's an old Polaroid of a girl sitting on a windowsill with a paintbrush in her mouth and a smirk on her face. He sets it on the counter. She used to hum Take On Me while painting sunflowers. Didn't even like the song. Just like the vowels. Zoe brings him a ceramic cup shaped like a cat's curled tail. The drink inside has the color of dust and lilac. She asked me once, he says, if I'd still remember her when my knees went bad. Zoe leans on the counter, listening. I told her yes, but I forgot her laugh for a while. This place helped me find it again. You glance at Zoe. Do you get a lot of lost laughs? All the time, she says. They're easier to store than tears. The old man lifts his cup in a toast. To memory. And mercy. You and Zoe clink invisible glasses with him. He drinks, stares at the Polaroid, and gently hums the song under his breath. You murmur, "This place feels like a funeral where no one dies." Zoe grins. Exactly. It's the place between mourning and moving on, the space where you're allowed to feel it all, but don't have to stay stuck. You close your eyes for a second. Listen. There's a faint ticking from somewhere behind the walls, like a grandfather clock marking the pace of old feelings. The scent tonight is subtle. Overripe plums and a hint of wood smoke. You ask, what do people usually order on their last visit? Zoe answers without missing a beat. The relief of being understood. Comes in a glass you can see yourself in, but the reflection always looks a little braver than you remember. You think about that. That's what I want. You say softly. She nods. Then you're closer than you think. The old man leaves the photo behind. For the next one, he says, patting the counter. She'd have liked that. Zoe tucks it into a shelf next to a snow globe with no snow and a jar labeled almosts. As he steps out, you realize your drink is already there. No mug, just a clear glass shaped like a question mark. You lift it. It tastes like finally saying the thing you rehearsed in your head 100 times and realizing they already knew. You sigh into the aftertaste. This place is too good to be real. Zoe laughs. That's what people say right before they forget to leave. You glance at the clock. It stopped. Or maybe it never moved. You ask, have I been here an hour? Or years? Zoe shrugs. Yes. The record ends with a soft pop. Zoe flips it. New song. Same ache. A woman enters, clutching a violin. She doesn't speak, just nods toward a booth in the back, where a man is already sitting with his eyes closed. Zoe whispers to you, they were in the same orchestra. Haven't played together since he left mid-concert 10 years ago. Why? No one knows. But the cafe, it forgives absences. The woman sits, and they don't talk. Just look and nod, and the violin comes out of its case. You don't hear music, but you feel it in your sternum. A pressure and release, like breathing through someone else's memory. You sip again. You're almost done, but not quite ready to leave. Zoe leans in, conspiratorially. Want to know a secret? You nod. Everyone thinks this place gives them what they need, she says, but really it just lets them be honest about what they've been carrying. You whisper, what have you been carrying? Zoe pauses, then smiles. The stories. Always the stories. Waiting for continue. Tonight, the cafe opens just a little earlier. You notice it when the streetlights haven't quite flickered on yet, and the sky is still holding on to that stubborn, gray-blue almost darkness. Something in you just knows. Tonight's a before midnight kind of night. The door is ajar when you get there. You don't even hesitate. You step inside. Zoe's behind the counter, humming something gentle under her breath. She's braiding her hair in a slow, methodical way, and for the first time since you've been coming, she looks distracted. Hey, you say. She jumps a little, then smiles. Hey yourself. Everything okay? She shrugs. Just a weird energy tonight. The cafe feels nostalgic, like it's remembering something I've forgotten. You sit down. The stools is warm, like it missed you. On the chalkboard tonight, in tall, swirling handwriting, it reads, tonight's feature, a memory that wasn't yours but lived in you anyway. Best served slow. Do not rush. You tap the counter lightly. I'll take one. Zoe starts making it right away. Fair warning, this one tends to borrow your dreams for a bit. Nothing harmful, just vivid. I'm used to that. She gives you a curious look. How's the sleep been since you started coming here? You tilt your head. Lighter, but kinder. She nods. That's usually how it goes. The scent tonight is something strange and soft. Chalk dust, lemon balm, and clean laundry. It hits you right in the chest, like a memory you've never had, but somehow miss. Zoe sets down the drink. It's in a delicate teacup shaped like a bell, complete with a tiny handle that only fits your pinky. The liquid is translucent, like moonlight skimmed off still water. You sip, and suddenly you remember a woman standing at a kitchen sink, humming to herself while the radio plays static. You feel the ache in her knees, the tightness in her shoulders, and the peace she gets from washing dishes just right. You blink hard. That's not my memory. Zoe is already nodding, but it's lived in you. Maybe through your mother, or someone who held you once and never said a word. We carry echoes of people who never speak. You sip again, slower. Now you're watching a boy under a library table, hiding with a comic book and a flashlight. He's not scared, just tired of being asked to be something he's not. He draws robots that cry and names them all after his teachers. Your chest aches. Zoe places a coaster under your cup. It's shaped like a cloud with teeth. You raise an eyebrow. That's weirdly ominous. She grins. Came from a visitor who claimed they used to dream in cartoons. Left it behind after they drank something called childhood, the director's cut. You laugh softly. I want that one someday. You already did, Zoe says, pointing at your cup. It's just wearing a different face tonight. A couple enters. Young, probably in their 20s. They're holding hands but not really looking at each other. You can see the quiet tension stretched between them like a rubber band on the verge of snapping. The woman walks up. We'd like something that makes us feel what we used to feel. Zoe tilts her head. You sure? The man clears his throat. We'll take it, even if it hurts. She doesn't argue, just nods and begins preparing a drink in two halves. One deep red, the other pale green. She layers them like she's stacking history. Each pour is careful, precise. They sit in the booth near the jukebox. Zoe hands them the glasses and murmurs, sip at the same time, no peeking. They obey. After a pause, they both exhale at once. The woman laughs, startled. The man presses his forehead against the table, shaking his head. Wow, the woman says. Zoe returns to you. That one's called First Shared Secret. Works best when both people remember the exact moment they stopped being strangers. You ask, does it always fix things? Zoe snorts gently. Oh no. Sometimes it just lets them say goodbye without guilt. But even that's a kind of healing. You watch the couple. They're holding hands again, but this time it's gentle, like they're offering a choice, not a demand. I think, you say slowly, this place teaches people how to feel again. Zoe leans back. That's the goal. Too many folks walk around numb, confusing it with strength. You look at your nearly empty cup. Is it weird I feel more awake after coming here? Not weird, she says, just rare. The lights flicker once. Zoe glances up, a flicker of concern passing through her. What was that? You ask. The cafe doesn't usually blink unless it's expecting someone difficult. The door creaks open. A teenage girl enters, eyes ringed with smudged eyeliner, clutching a tattered journal like it's armor. She walks straight up to the counter. I want something that'll make me stop hating myself. Zoe freezes, just for a breath. Then, okay, but you have to drink it here, and you have to promise not to lie while it's working. The girl nods. Zoe begins making a drink with her hands. No cups, no tools. Just bare palms cupped together, water gathering from somewhere unseen. She breathes into it. Once, twice, then holds it out. The girl drinks straight from Zoe's hands. You swear the cafe goes utterly silent. For a long moment, nothing happens. Then the girl bursts into tears. Zoe wraps her in a hug, whispering something you can't hear. But the cafe hears it. You can tell. The walls settle. The lights steady. Even the jazz hushes into a lull. You feel your own chest unclench. That one's on the house, Zoe whispers, stroking the girl's hair. The girl leaves without a word. But as the door shuts behind her, you see something scrawled on the back of her journal. I am still here. You exhale. Deeply, like you've been holding your breath this whole time. Zoe returns to you. She'll be okay, she says. You nod. Yeah, I think she will. Your drink is gone. The coaster is now just a circle of condensation. Zoe hands you something, a receipt with no total, no items. Just one line. You were brave for showing up. You smile. Do I keep this? It's yours. The cafe only prints them when you're ready to see it. You fold it neatly into your wallet, next to your ID and your old movie stubs. Same time tomorrow? You ask. Zoe grins. This place only opens when you're ready. You know that by now. You nod. You do. But it's nice to pretend it's on a schedule anyway. Where do you continue? Tonight, it's raining. Not the dramatic, thunder-shaking kind, just a soft, almost polite drizzle. The kind of rain that whispers more than it shouts. You don't even open your umbrella. You let the drops touch your hair, your lashes, the edge of your sleeve. Something tells you this weather was requested. When you reach the cafe, there's something different. The door isn't just open, it's waiting. You feel it in your chest, like the stillness before someone says your name. Zoe isn't behind the counter tonight. In her place is a small, handwritten note, folded neatly like an origami bird. It reads, "Tonight you serve. Don't panic. Trust the cafe. The tray knows what to do." You blink. Excuse me? But there's no one to answer. Behind the counter sits a tray, silver, polished. 3 mugs on it already, all steaming. A 4th is slowly filling itself from a tap that glows faintly blue. You step around the counter, hesitant. The floor feels warmer here, like the heartbeat of the place runs through the wood. The tray shifts slightly. You stare at it. You want me to carry this? It doesn't respond, but you know. You know. You lift the tray. It's lighter than it looks. The mugs don't slosh. Each one smells like a different season. Spring mud, autumn leaves, deep winter snow, and sun-baked stone. The first destination is easy. A woman in her 50s is sitting at the corner booth, writing something in a spiral notebook. She looks up as you approach. "This one's for you," you say, setting down the mug that smells like October wind. She lifts it carefully. "Thank you. I used to teach 8th grade. Fall was always when they started pretending not to need you anymore." She sips. Her eyes close. She doesn't speak again. The tray hums once, low, like a throat clearing. You move to the next table. This time, it's a young man, headphones around his neck, staring at his phone like it just insulted him. You place the second mug, this one with the scent of sidewalk chalk and spring puddles, without a word. He looks up. "What is it?" You shrug. "Something you forgot you needed." He half smiles, like he thinks you're joking. Then he takes a sip. A beat. He exhales sharply. "Wow." You want to ask, but the tray shifts again. Time to move. The third drink goes to someone you don't even see until you're right there. An elderly woman, nearly transparent in how still she sits. She watches the steam curl upward, not moving to touch it. You set the mug down. "Winter, huh?" She chuckles. "Always liked a season that doesn't pretend." She doesn't drink, but she cups her hands around it like warmth itself might answer a question. The tray is empty. You set it back behind the counter. Zoe is suddenly there again, right where she always is. You startle. "Were you here the whole time?" "Nope," she says. You pass the test. You blink. What test? The one where you learn it's not about the drinks. It's about what you're willing to hand someone in their quietest moment. You stare at her. "You made me the barista." "Only for tonight. The cafe chooses when it's time. And you needed to know that you don't always have to be the one hurting to help someone else heal." You exhale. "That felt weirdly good." She nods. "That's because deep care is an ache, a kind one." You sit again, and this time Zoe brings you something different. A bowl. Inside, instead of liquid, are tiny marbles. Each one has a symbol on it, an eye, a lock, a ladder, a bird. Some are cracked, some glow faintly. "What are these?" Zoe tilts her head. "Regrets, caught before they hardened." You pick one up. It's warm. It has a tiny image of a closed window. "Can I?" "Keep it," she says. "It only works for you." You slip it into your coat pocket, and you swear it hums against your palm. Then the lights flicker, not in alarm this time, but like a gentle reminder. Someone enters. A kid, maybe 10 years old. Backpack too big for his body. He looks around with the kind of tiredness you shouldn't have before you hit puberty. He walks straight up to Zoe. "Do you have something that makes the world stop being so loud?" Zoe smiles gently. "Always." She pulls out a jar the size of a baseball. Inside is a thick, pale blue mist that moves like ink in water. She unscrews the lid and hands it to the boy. "Just breathe it in. Slow. Like a secret." He inhales. His shoulders drop. He doesn't say thank you, but his eyes soften. He sits in the booth farthest from everything and just rests. You look to Zoe. Does the cafe find them? Or do they find the cafe? Zoe places a new mug in front of you. "It's both," she says, "but only when they're finally tired enough to sit still." You sip. It tastes like a night you spent on a roof once, staring up, unsure if the stars were moving or if you were. Zoe pulls something out from under the counter. It's a scrapbook. She flips it open. Photos, notes, doodles, coasters, receipts like yours. Every page has a name. Some you recognize, most you don't. She stops on one page and taps it. Your name is there. The ink is still wet. You raise an eyebrow. "When did you write that?" Zoe smiles. "You earned your page tonight. When you carried those drinks." You ask, "What happens when the book is full?" "The cafe gets a new one, but we keep the old ones close." She slides the book back into its spot. You sit there in silence. The kind that feels good, like clean sheets and heavy blankets and the first deep breath after crying. The jukebox clicks on by itself. It plays a cover of Heroes by some band you've never heard of. Slower, sadder, but beautiful. Zoe stands across from you. Watching you watch the room. You're different now, she says. You nod. Yeah, I feel like I've been reassembled. Better, you think? No, just more honest. She grins. That's the best kind. Outside, the rain has stopped. The sidewalk gleams. The world waits. Zoe looks at you. One more visit left, I think. You feel it too. A final sip. A last goodbye. But not tonight. Tonight you rest.
Right.
You arrive early again. Not by much, just enough that the sky is still navy instead of black, and the air hums with that low electric tension before something ends. Or begins. The sign outside the cafe doesn't say, open. It says, tonight is the last cup. You hesitate at the door, your hand on the knob. You almost don't turn it. Almost. But then you do. Zoe's waiting behind the counter. But she's not alone. There's a man beside her. He's older. Salt and pepper beard, gold-rimmed glasses, a sweater that looks like it remembers better years. He doesn't smile, but he nods at you, like he's seen you before. Maybe in a different story. Zoe gestures to your usual stool. We've been expecting you. You sit, slower this time. So, this is it. She shrugs. Only for this chapter. The man speaks, voice like velvet on a turntable. The cafe exists in phases. Some people stay for a night, some for a decade. Most never even know they visited. You look around. The booths are empty. The jukebox is off. The plants along the windowsill have turned their leaves inward, like they're sleeping. It's quiet, you say. Zoe nods. The cafe empties itself when it needs to speak directly. To me. To you, the man agrees, and also through you. The man places a small square object on the counter, a deck of cards bound by a silver ribbon. This is yours now. You eye it. What is it? Stories. He replies. Moments. Potions, if you like. Not brewed in mugs, but drawn from intuition. You reach out. The ribbon falls away with a whisper. The top card reads, Begin with stillness. You turn it over, a single image, an open field full of fog, no path forward. You breathe in sharply. It feels familiar. Zoe leans in. The cafe has lived in you for longer than you think. This place is just where you finally heard it. The man nods, looking pleased. Tonight, you choose your last drink. No specials? Zoe grins. No rules, you think. Then very quietly say, I want something that lets me leave without forgetting, but also without clinging. Zoe looks at the man. He nods once and disappears. No fanfare. One blink and he's gone. You don't even flinch. Zoe begins preparing your drink. She doesn't speak as she works. There's no dramatic flourish, no glowing steam or dancing ingredients. Just care, precision, stillness. She places the cup in front of you. It's bone white, unadorned. The drink itself is colorless, but when you lean in, you smell everything. The first morning you laughed after grief. The pillow your friend left at your apartment, still smelling like their shampoo. The crackle of a vinyl record you never bought but always wanted. You sip, and the world rearranges itself. Not like a movie, more like furniture shifting when no one's home. You see yourself. Not in the mirror, but in the space you've made over time. The people you've helped, the ones who've healed beside you, the secrets you've kept just long enough to let them go. You laugh once, gently. This is perfect. Zoe exhales like she was holding her breath. Most people want closure. You asked for continuity. You set the cup down. I don't want this to be goodbye. It's not, she says. The cafe lives in quiet hours, in deep breaths. In the first moment, you choose peace over reaction. You'll find it again. You pause. Will I remember you? She tilts her head. Not clearly. But you'll remember how you felt. That's always the part that stays. You nod. Zoe hands you a slip of paper. It's not a receipt this time. It's blank, until you hold it to your chest. Then, like magic, words appear in soft gray ink. You are not the person who walked in here, and that's the whole point. You fold it, pocket it. The lights dim, just a little. The cafe knows it's time. You stand. The bell above the door jingles even though it doesn't move. Zoe walks you to the threshold. Outside, the street is empty, but the world feels wider, softer. You turn to say something, anything, but Zoe just winks. You'll find us again when you need to. You hesitate one last time, then step out. The door shuts behind you with a sound like an exhale. And when you turn around, it's gone. No building, no sign, just an alley between a bookstore and a laundromat. You stand there for a while, then you smile, because you're not lost. You're just on your way again. Waiting for continue. The cafe doesn't return the next night, or the one after that. You try. You walk past the alley, the old bookstore, the rusted drain pipe where the cat used to blink at you like it knew your secrets. Nothing. You even press your ear to the bricks once, feeling ridiculous and hopeful all at once. Still nothing, so you let it go. Kind of. You start to live differently, not dramatically. No shaved head or sudden move to a yurt in Montana, just more attentively. You take longer showers. You stir your tea slowly. You let your phone ring a little longer before answering, just in case the silence is saying something first. The deck of cards sits on your nightstand. Most nights you don't touch them, but once in a while, when the wind feels like it's whispering or your chest is a little too full, you draw one. Let go of the clock. Speak only in questions. Make eye contact with your past. Don't answer the door, open it. The images change depending on the light. You stop asking why. You journal. It starts as a couple sentences here and there. Today I saw a girl wearing a cape made of caution tape and no one cared, but becomes habit. Ritual. A tiny cafe of your own, ink instead of mugs. Then one night, months later, something odd happens. You dream about Zoe. She's stirring a drink that never finishes swirling, humming a tune you think you made up, and when she looks at you, she says, "Tell me about your cafe." You blink. My what? She gestures behind you, and there it is. It's not the same as hers. Not exactly. Yours has floor-to-ceiling windows, and the walls are covered in stories written on receipts. There's a piano in the corner, even though you've never played a note in your life. A shelf of mismatched cups. And one booth always empty, just in case someone new arrives. Zoe grins. That's the thing about memory. If you can dream it this clearly, it means it's yours now. You wake up before you ask her anything else. Your pillow smells faintly of nutmeg. That day, without quite planning it, you leave a little notebook on a park bench. Inside is a card from your deck, pressed into the middle like a surprise ingredient. Be the place where others pause. You don't stick around to see who finds it. You're not the kind of person who needs to. A few weeks later, a friend texts you out of nowhere. "Hey, you used to talk about this place that only opens at midnight, right? Did you make that up? Because I swear I just dreamed it." You reply simply, "Nope, you're just early." The dreams come back occasionally. Sometimes you're the guest, sometimes the barista. Once, you were the chair. Each time, it feels less like fiction and more like fluency. You start to recognize others like you, the man who brings hot tea to the night bus driver without being asked. The girl who carries sidewalk chalk in her backpack and draws little breathe here bubbles in unexpected places. The old woman who hands out poems instead of receipts at her secondhand shop. They never say the word cafe, but you can feel it in them. Like static, like an unfinished song you all somehow remember. And then, one final night, long after you stopped expecting it, you turn a corner you've walked 100 times, and it's there. Just like that. The same green door. You don't even hesitate. You step in. The bell rings. The lights flicker, and there's Zoe, still wearing that mismatched apron, still stirring something invisible behind the counter. She looks up. Smiles. There you are. You don't speak. You just take your seat. And the cafe, impossibly, deliciously, goes on. Cool down, words. And now, we let the lights dim. The last steam has risen, curling softly into a ceiling that remembers every sigh you've ever exhaled in peace. The cafe is quieter now, not because it's empty, but because it's full of stories finally told, of memories folded carefully like linen napkins and tucked into warm pockets. You feel it in your spine, the slow melting of the day's noise, the surrender to the hush between words, like you've walked miles in the dark only to find your name glowing faintly on a window pane. And maybe tomorrow will be louder. Maybe you'll forget for a moment how to listen for the gentle tug in your chest that says pause here. But that's okay, because this story doesn't close. It rests. It lives in the clink of mugs in a stranger's hands, in the note someone left you that said you're not alone, in the smell of something you can't name that suddenly makes you feel safe. Tonight, you were the visitor. Tomorrow, maybe you'll be the door someone else needs to find. So let your head sink back into the pillow. Let the air drift softly against your skin, like the cafe's breath reminding you it's not far. It never is. You made it. And somewhere between here and dreaming, there's another story waiting to be served. But for now, shh. Close your eyes. Let the world fade behind a closed sign and a last sip. You're home. End of script. Good night.